Picking them off one by one, Pravin Gordhan and now Cyril Ramaphosa. The public protector has the president in her sights. What clout does she have? Now, 2 of her reports are set aside with damning judgments. 2 others are currently under review, and accusations of protecting the powerful at the expense of the marginalized. Sceptism around the public protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane's fitness to hold office, is mounting. Now, is the criticism aimed at her justified? Has the public protector failed in her duties? Democratic Alliance National spokesperson Solly Malatsi joins me from our Cape Town studios, and constitutional law expert Phepelapi Dube joins us on Skype, also from Cape Town. Very warm welcome to both of you. Solly Malatsi, let me start off with you. What is your response to the public protector's interest, and what do you know about the reports swirling?
Good evening, Jade, and it's a pleasure to be on the show. Look, I think there's been a history of inconsistencies from the public protector's office since assuming that role, and there's been very serious concerns raised regarding the compilation of reports coming from that office, with some of those being having been taken on judicial review. And from the onset, leading up to the process that culminated in her appointment, we are opposed to her appointment because we felt at the time she didn't possess the impartiality that was needed for that particular office and the depth of experience that is needed.
And yet you're happy to hear what she's got to say on the president.
It is key to separate the individual from the institution because the process of conducting investigations goes beyond one individual, in this case being Busisiwe Mkhwebane. And while we've got very strong objections because of the manner in which she has conducted previous reports, it is essential that once every complaint has been laid, that it be investigated thorough, and that once the investigation has been completed, such reports are released for the public to be able to interrogate those reports.
Phepelapi Dube, what do you make of this latest move by the public protector? What do you know about it?
Well, given the fact that we already know that President Ramaphosa has himself made the same admission before Parliament in a question and answer session about having accepted the donation from Bosasa. So I think the latest developments really do not come as a surprise. But again, I think the bigger picture that we should be considering is perhaps some of the allegations that have been leveled at the public protector's office regarding her apparent, conduct in certain cases. So I think the fact that there have already been other allegations about how she's handled certain matters, for example, how she conducted herself in the Freddie matter, for example. So I think that on its own goes some way in terms of casting a shadow, so to speak, on the latest developments regarding the president.
You say casting a shadow, but I mean, she had damning judgments against her. I mean, this is more than a shadow, isn't it? I mean, is this enough to remove her? There, many are calling for her to step away from the office so that the real work can be done.
Well, I think in us answering that question, we really need to look at the work of the public protector in a holistic manner. And I think if we consider the fact that there have been over 18,000 investigations that the public protector's office has completed in the 2017-2018 year, and not just that, but also the fact that the public protector has been involved in raising the profile of the public protector's office, just bringing the work of the public protector to the ordinary South African, moving away from the politically charged cases and handling matters that are of importance to the ordinary man on the street. But of course, we need to balance that up against what the courts have said about the public protector. And I think in this regard, if we look at what the courts said about her in the Reserve Bank matter, for example, the fact that in that particular case, the court said that some of the conduct of the public protector Protector gave credence to the view that she was probably biased. So, for example, the fact that she had been in consultation with the presidency but did not disclose that to the Reserve Bank, and also the fact that she did not give the Reserve Bank a chance to comment on the provisional report. And I think most damning of all is perhaps what the court had said about her in the Estina Dairy case matter. So just the court's basically saying that she displayed a degree of ineptitude, that there was gross negligence on her part. And I think the fact that she also attempted to amend the Constitution insofar as she tried to amend the mandate of the Reserve Bank. And even though she did tender costs in that regard, but I think we need to...
I mean, you say all that, and thank you for laying it out. Has she failed in her job? And can, as Solly Malatsi said, can you separate the individual from the institution here?
Well, ultimately, bearing in mind that in terms of the Public Protector Act, it's really not about the individual, but it's really about the office and how the office is in a position to discharge its duties. I think it's a bit difficult to then bring in the person of Busisiwe Mkhwebane, because we really need to be looking at the work of the Public Protector in its totality. But again, given the really damning remarks that have been made by the High Court, I think in this regard, it would be very difficult to then say that she's still very much acting within the mandate of the office. And we should be moving beyond that to look at her as an individual, to look at the decisions that she has been making. And I think in this regard, it can be argued that she can be found quite wanting.
Okay, and also, I mean, Solly, you're looking for a 2/3 majority, aren't you? I mean, where are you going to be getting that support to get rid of her? Where will you look for that? Because the ANC, we've no idea which way they're going to go at this stage.
Look, there is growing consensus across all political parties, perhaps with the exception of the EFF, that there are serious deficiencies in the manner in which the Public Protector has conducted herself and executed her duties. So if you look at developments, I mean, even the SACP, which has representation through its alliance with the ANC in Parliament, even some prominent members of the ANC have alluded to the manner in which the Public Protector's execution of her functions has been very problematic, as indicated again by the 2 judgments that the High Court has found against her. So it is about doing the right thing, and in this case, if there is recognition, which we believe there is, that the Public Protector has failed to consistently execute her mandate in a reasonable, in an impartial, and in a non-political manner, the fairest conclusion would be to establish that commission that we have called for, in which we have written a letter to the Speaker of Parliament, so that the first order of business post the State of the Nation address would be an ad hoc committee that looks into her lack of fitness to continue occupying that role.
So going back to the ANC, I mean, you really would need them for this, wouldn't you? I mean, how are you going to get them on board?
Well, political lobbying happens on a consistent basis. It's about engaging across the political aisle, and given that there is recognition even within ANC benches about the deficiencies in the current Public Protector's ability to execute her role, we believe that we'll be able to persuade our colleagues in the ANC and other opposition parties.
Pepe Lapi, I was quite interested to see that the Public Protector's Office wouldn't comment on the contents of the ongoing investigation into Cyril Ramaphosa, and yet we saw the Public Protector speaking out on social media on her findings and what she's doing as far as Pravin Gordhan is concerned. What do you make of those 2 different styles there?
Well, I think it certainly does raise eyebrows, just the manner in which, first of all, she served the particular Section 7.2 notice using social media, and not just that, but also the fact that she apparently had not yet made his legal representatives or indeed Minister Gordhan aware of the next steps that she was taking. So I think in that regard, it does perhaps suggest that there are some cases that are before before the public protector, in which there's a disproportionate amount of attention that is paid to them. So I think in that sense, it very much does lend credence to the notion that perhaps in some instances, the public protector is not as impartial as the Constitution demands that she be.
And Sally Matsatsi, very briefly from you, should the president be nervous?
Come again, Jade, I couldn't hear the last part.
Should the president be nervous?
He has to be nervous because if you look at the series of events, I think what we're also seeing from the president is delaying tactics. What we do know for sure is that when the president responded to the question that the leader of the DA, Mr. Mmusi Maimane, asked, he misled Parliament. And that is the departure of the investigation. So it's about the consequences that would be meted out to the president because he has admitted himself to having provided Parliament with incorrect information. And if he has to live up to his word of a new dawn and a new era of doing things, the first reaction should be to take responsibility for misleading Parliament and for that action to be seen so that he can be taken seriously whenever he preaches about the gospel of this elusive new dawn.
Okay, sorry Malatsi. Pepelapi Dube, thank you. Still ahead, a landmark ruling in Botswana decriminalizes homosexuality. Is this a new beginning for LGBTIQ rights on the continent? But first, let's take a look at your international weather.